Welcome to episode 498 of This Week in League. I'm Nate.
And I'm Jay.
And I'm Glenn.
How you doing, fellas?
Just fantastic.
This is deja vu that no one else not on this call will understand.
Yeah. So, as it turns out, last Thursday, we recorded our annual, what's become our annual traditional Ask the Agent spectacular. And technical difficulties were had. Files were fucked. Episodes were, largely unrecoverable, or certainly if they were recoverable, it was, a monumental pain in the ass to actually recover it. Time consuming. So the decision was made that we would just it's kind of a good thing. The decision was made to redo it, and because we were redoing it a week later, I don't remember what happened really in the last one. So it's because I have been in situations before where I've had to redo stuff in episodes, and when you're trying to play to a script, it's fucking hard. It's hard, and it's hard. You can't recapture that magic. You might remember some cracking jokes or whatever, and you try and rebuild the scenarios and stuff that resulted in the jokes, and it's hard. But now we've got enough distance between it, so we can actually approach it from the start again.
Stay tuned. I remember the RLPA copping a shellacking. So that can only be a good time.
And hopefully this time, I mean, my hope for this episode, only singular hope for this episode, is I just hope that Glenye had a better week this week than he did last week.
No.
Because in that last one, he was fucking surly. It was the worst. It was the worst of Glenye. Like, it's a side
That's
you
not
never.
fair.
It's a side you rarely see. Rarely, if ever, see.
Yeah, but I've got you two, and then I've got this other cunt, and you all fucking tend to bring out the best in me.
Well, you know what?
Hey, look, without it,
you are.
Sorry, go ahead.
You are. You're the bizarro Kanye West. You've seen
Glenye, if you will.
You are. Yeah, you are. You're Glenye Wooms. So, but
Glenye West Tigers.
Well, at the moment, everybody is watching that fucking tigerest of declines. Like that is probably the biggest decline since the Tigers that's happening right now in front of us.
He's now known as Kanye Wests.
But do you know how that happened? He's had no one around him that has said the word no to him.
Yeah.
For the last 20 years. Right? Maybe 15. Who knows? But you've got the opposite of that, Glenny.
Everybody says no to me, especially my wife. Oh, fuck.
Love it. What did we start with last week?
I can't remember. I say, look. Without any further ado, welcome to our buddy Michael from Strive, and joining us again for the third year in a row, yet fourth time in a row. and let me tell you, it's funny that we're redoing it today. I had a message from one of our listeners that we know quite well in Chapo, and he's like, "Hang on a minute, I think there's a TWiL member on the fucking Chase today." So your episode of the Chase was on today again.
Yeah, so it was a rerun. The
rerun, because I remember you did it ages ago, right?
Yeah, the first time it came on, I had all these old flames, old friends. Everyone came out of the woodworks, and it was just the worst chat in my DMs all of a sudden. And then all of a sudden, it was blowing up before, and I was like, including Chapo with, undesirables messaging me. And I was like, what the fuck's actually going on? And then I looked on the TV at the bar I was at, because I was just on a date before, and then I was like, hey, look, it's me. And she was like, what the fuck?
Oh, my days.
So that was all right.
Yeah. See, these are the things you have to line up for yourself, Glenny, so you don't have to lock her in the car.
It's too late, mate. It's already been well and truly effective. Well and truly effective.
Or back when it would have mattered to you, get yourself on the wireless.
You may remember me from such TV shows as that one up there.
Look, there's Glenny on MASH.
There's Glenny on Bonanza.
No, see, it was the opposite.
When
if I'm not on Wheel of Fortune,
to catch some fucking cattle rustlers.
It was the opposite for Glenny. He'd be sitting there with a date with the wireless on, and prime 80s Alan Jones would be going off on some fucking racist tangent, and they'd be going, "Is that you?" He would be trying to
How did
convince
I
them.
get labelled? How did I get that label of all the labels? Fucking hell.
Classic Glenye West.
It is.
Yes.
Classic.
The Holocaust is real, Glenny. It happened.
Hey, Nathan, it sounds like you may have found the episode title already. It's really struck a chord with you, Glenye Wests.
And you guys got there in the end and just like called it together and the real chef's kiss moment is making it Wests. That's all you need. That's all you need. You don't even need the Tigers on there. We know. You know what we mean.
I'm waiting for the design of the first pair of Gleezies.
It'd be fucking Ugg boots.
Yeah, like I don't know if you can
And really small ones.
Can your design genius, Glenny, can you somehow combine an Ugg boot with a Croc?
Okay. It'll look like a Tigerachi.
Knee highs.
Do you have your Tigerachis yet, by the way?
No, you haven't sent them to me.
I don't have them.
I've still got them here. I haven't seen him.
Fuck's sake.
If I had them, I would have sent them to you.
I was going to bring them to the meetup, but I couldn't come. So
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. All right. So as we do, we have solicited the listeners and members for questions about the world of being an NRL agent, and we got a couple of okay ones. And which we will. Well, I guess before we start, though, would you like to give us a bit of a state of the union, Michael, in terms of the last 12 months for Strive? I mean, because we're kind of charting the progress and the growth of the business. Watching it from zero to where it is today. So, give us a state of the union, where you're at, what's happening, what you're excited about.
Tell us how wildly successful you are and why that success hasn't translated into buying better shirts.
That's going to help the listeners a lot, I'm sure. Obviously, for those who don't know me, I've been in the TWiL Nation since like 2016.
You got to take a photo of the screen. Hey, Glenny, you can take. Computers got screenshots these days.
Yeah, but then I have to fuck around on the computer. I can just do this straight from my phone. It's great.
Yeah, so I was been a member of TWiL Nation since 2016. I think I was about 22 years old at the time, so I was a little kiddie. Nate took me under his wing. Then I was RSA'd. And then then I proceeded to walk to the local park and pass out. And I woke up to have none of my belongings, including my printed out grand final tickets to watch the Sharks versus the Storm. Since then, obviously, a lot's changed. I've learnt my drinking limits and I became a player agent. And obviously, this is my third time round with you boys. So I run Strive Player Agency, a one-man band, just all by myself. And this year's been really great. Strive's really getting some brand awareness and people are, coming to me through all sorts of channels for me, reaching out to me for me to be their manager. I don't do any marketing or anything like that. It's all sort of word of mouth and, I think I'm doing a great job in really growing it. So I went from having one NRL signed player to getting another one who's just signed with the Raiders, who I picked out close to where I live now and signed him when he was in the junior reps and helped him get his first NRL contract, which was fantastic. As of right now, I've got another player who has a pending West Tigers contract, who's considering re-signing for the Queensland Cup instead of taking up that train and trial opportunity at a lucrative club.
Now you
sounds like a smart man.
You as the agent, though, I mean, is what advice, like, to help with the decision making? And obviously we're not slagging any teams, but with that process there's a Queensland Cup offer on the table, there's West Tigers offer on the table. How do you counsel someone?
This will put him to the test.
To help them to help them make their decision. What are the factors that you would in something like this that you would put to them?
Well, so
I want my 5%, but I like the guy.
Well, last year he did a full pre-season with the Melbourne Storm. Learned a lot there and had a fantastic Queensland Cup year to the point where he was probably the best fullback in the comp. Obviously, the West Tigers have offered him a similar sort of pre-season arrangement where he'd go back and start the year for their feeder club in Glenye's West Magpies. I guess given that pre-season starts next Wednesday, it's been pretty late to the table. He'd have to quit his job in Brisbane, move there, find accommodation, do everything within a week, which is kind of tough. And I think given how talented he is and how special he is, signing for one of the Broncos feeder teams now in the Queensland Cup, I think might be the better opportunity for the following year to get a top 30 contract anyway, which is what he'd be looking at after another full NRL preseason.
Yep.
So it's not.
Do you think he's got a better? Do you think he's got a better chance of usurping Reece than he does of usurping Dane Laurie or Charlie Staines, perhaps?
Well, that was the problem. He was looking at a top 30 deal there at the Tigers, and they signed Staines, the Forbes Ferrari, as they call him, to be the backup. So he, so that kind of changed everything. So yeah, it's hard to say, and we have decisions to make. So that's also something we have to contemplate.
Is
very
that
quickly.
something that you find you have to do a lot in talking to these kids? That it's let's weigh up the immediate versus the long term.
Yeah, that's right, 100%. I guess if he'd never had an NRL preseason and never been amongst some top 30 guys slogging it out every day in the gym, on the field and things like that, I think he would jump at the opportunity. But the fact that he already has means that he doesn't have to take a short-term sort of opportunity amongst a bunch of NRL guys, as opposed to he can look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, and let's be frank, the Tigers have two young players they've signed to play fullback. There are definitely other clubs with thinner fullback stocks that if he's as good as you say, would have a better opportunity. So, how does he feel knowing that, being the best fullback in the Queensland Cup, just because of the quality of the competition, probably makes him the 16th best fullback if you include all the New South Wales teams?
Yeah, that's right. There's some other really quality fullbacks out there. So, and there's a lot of people looking for similar deals, and a lot of people which have English passports that can just go play in the Super League as well, which he doesn't have. So,
okay.
So that sort of limits his options and makes kind of the NRL the number one shot for him.
Yeah. Okay.
But as opposed to my top end guys, signing a lot of from the bottom end, from 15 years old and growing into the women's space has been fantastic. Got a lot of fathers of proud fathers, I should say, and reaching out about their daughters and signing more and more girls and trying to grow it in that space as that game grows. Both financially and talent wise. If you watch the NRLW every year, it gets so much better. So it'll be interesting seeing it grow and grow. And as the NRL's turning over a big profit, as they say, putting more money into the women's game and growing that for the next generation, I think it's something that I'm very, very proud to be a part of and want to see that grow as well.
Yep, beautiful.
Cool. Okay, so let's get to some of the questions we've got here. Let me go through. And Jordan, and this is fairly timely considering that I guess the open season's going to start in a couple of days. But Jordan asks, how often do clubs reach out for contract agreements before transfer deadlines?
Yeah, so the transfer deadline's 1 November. So 1 November 2022, which is coming up in 3 or 4 days, is when you can negotiate for 2024. So a lot of clubs try and lock that in, and they, as in with their players that they currently have that they want to extend, the rules are that you have first right to try and extend them before that deadline day. So a lot of clubs do reach out before 1 November because from 1 November it's feeding season. Now, there's a lot of clubs and a lot of managers that ignore the 1 November, and you see them trying to push their players to certain clubs such as Redcliffe well before their contracts are due. But at the end of the day, that just gives them, I guess it bumps up their value on the open market. So there are rules, but they're loosely followed by some.
Yeah, and is that the case? Is that the club side of thing, or is that managers sort of seeding that those possibilities out there to give them more leverage over their existing club and try and bump up the asking price and that sort of thing?
Exactly. Well, it's all leverage, and if you played by the rules, you wouldn't have that leverage in the initial contract discussions because you'd have to wait. But no one really, well, not no one, but a lot of people don't follow that rule to try and get the immediate money and the immediate extension to try to bluff their way out. Because I don't even know what the penalty is. Do you just get you just get reprimanded, or what happens? Because if you got reprimanded, then there'd be a lot of clubs in a lot of trouble short term. So,
But then, what do the rules cover though? Do the rules cover official approaches from club employees to managers? Like how do you stop at the moment? You got the Kangaroos team travelling. Now I don't know. Are there any of those players that are off contract this year?
not that I can think of.
Probably, yeah. And you got
For 2024, yes,
you've got
but not for
Genius over there meeting people, and Genius is over there. Like there are people over there like sussing guys out.
That's it. So if you've got at the moment Munster and Cleary are rooming together. Let's say Munster's off contract, which he was up until the Storm re-signed him. But if he'd have gone outside of signing with them then, and you've got Nathan in his ear talking about we've got this and the centre of excellence and and come
fucking sick of Jerome.
Yeah, that's it.
Sick of his bullshit.
So, is that considered an approach?
Player to player, no. I mean, players get in each other's ears all the time. But if someone like Tim Sheens, who is at the moment a kind of a general manager type of position, similar to Gus Gould, then yes, that would definitely be tampering. In which has severe penalties in other sports, such as in the US. But in the NRL, what's the penalty? They're going to pay a fine. Well, a lot of clubs in the green, they can take your fine if it means being able to try and attract world-class talent straight away, for sure.
Yeah, that's it. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if you just think about it, what's the last club that got penalised, or when was the last incident of player tampering that led to punishment?
I believe the Warriors threatened to try and get Redcliffe in trouble. I think that was over the dealing of Reece Walsh, but that was just a threat, and no one actually put forward anything. So
that's it.
Yeah, I can't think of a time ever, at least certainly in recent history, where something happened, it was discovered or it was whatever, and then ultimately punished. I can't think of a single example ever.
No, the only time front officers have ever got in trouble was salary cap stuff. No one talks about any of the tampering and things like that. But to make my point, Munster technically couldn't have spoken to any other clubs until 1 November, which hasn't even happened yet. But we obviously saw 101 articles about all sorts of clubs.
West Tigers making a big play for him, Wayne wanting him.
Congrats in advance to them as well.
Yeah, and I mean, there's probably a portion of that is also just the media saying these clubs have money under their salary cap available. This player's coming off contract, so perhaps
we know how
they just joined the dots just to step upon.
Well, we know how the media
availabilities. Yeah,
it's the same thing. Every time a coach gets the sack, the article is the next day that these are the front runners for the coaching job, and all it is every first grade coach that doesn't have a club at the moment.
And all it is Anthony Seibold.
Exactly. Yeah, or mostly the coaches that have friends in the media. Because, like, for example, Flano's a classic one for it.
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't. I mean, there's been probably half a dozen head coach or like 4 or 5 head coach jobs open up over the last couple of years.
Yep.
His name's come up every single time.
Yeah.
And he's not got any of them.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah. Whether he's even gone for them or not, who knows?
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's the thing. I mean, I'm sure he wants to fucking be head coach again, but he's gonna have to do his time.
I don't know. If I was him, I would have waited till my kid got a contract. Maybe that was the thing. Maybe if that was up in the air, he could have fucking followed him. I wouldn't have signed anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, where are we? The next one. So answer as you will from Jason. Said, how famous does a client have to be for you to consider hiding a dead hooker for them?
Probably do that for most of the TWiL hosts and some of my other good friends. But probably not players who I have like a kind of client relationship with. Although we do have confidentiality, so maybe it would be the perfect person to hide a body for. So I don't know. Maybe up in Toowoomba where no one would look for them.
Do you get your players to give you like $1, and you're also retained as their legal counsel?
Oh, that's
Just giving you this double whammy of fucking confidentiality and immunity from.
That's always part of the pitch, though. I said, like, yeah, I'll give you all my legal expertise, and what that
There you
extends
go.
to is
That's like how, when just before Apple releases a new model, they slow down the processors on the kill the battery life on the old models. You just start delivering dead hookers to your players' front doorsteps. It's like, what is this?
How did this get here? However, will you get rid of this, and who will cover it up for you?
I hope no one finds out about this.
I mean, given your unique set of qualifications though in the space, I mean, it is quite astounding that you haven't picked up a Matthew Lodge or a Dylan Walker or one of these types and got them on the books.
Oh, I think I probably could, but given that I can't, there's such rules against with tampering with clubs. There's tampering with players. Like the player has to actually not be managed for me to even speak with them. So I couldn't give that sort of pitch unless they were a free agent. And it's tough to get wind of people becoming free agents. So look, I think if I did bring that sort of thing forward, then they might. But also, I don't want that sort of person in my life ever. So, hitting me up for need a bail application in 3 hours' time because he was arrested at 5 a.m. and he's facing court at 8.
Could I suggest to you that if you don't want to deal with criminals, you've made two rather poor career choices?
literally the two worst ones, with the possible exception of actually being like a prison guard.
Or like being in the mafia. Okay, so we've established that a player can talk to another player, and you as a manager might leak. Let's say you got someone that wants to go to a certain club or wants to go here. Might say that, look, in the past they've expressed desires for this, and this. Is it then plausible for you to put out to your clientele that there's a referral signing bonus, that if anyone approaches you based on them, you'll swing a percent of the first year of that person's contract to them?
There would be nothing stopping you from doing that, and that might well exist. Look, there are a lot of clubs that really feed certain managers, and you look at a lot of their rosters, and there's a large percentage signed by one certain management here and there because I guess they'd be in tune with all the opportunities. So that would be a cheap way to do it, and a way you couldn't police it. But at the end of the day, can you name on your hand 5 players that you'd trust with such a task of trying to lure someone else on a percentage? They'd buck it up, and it all end in tears.
Yeah, true.
There'd be all sorts of bonuses and things.
There's only one man I'd trust for the job, fucking Jakey. You imagine if you're going, look, mate, you should come over. It's really nice. Like, I mean, have you ever been to a club that's like, it's just really nice?
It'd just make me so proud. It'd make me so proud to see you come along and just
if you were training and playing every week with us, I mean, it'd be so nice. I tell you what, that nice act's working with the boys overseas. So you see the photo from Angus Crichton, where he did a sequence where like they're all standing there with I think it was Fox and Crichton and someone else, can't remember who it was, with Jake, and he's got his he's just like got his hands in fists, and they're all doing the thumbs up thing, and you got Fox like pulling Jake's thumb up, like saying like they had to force him to do it. But
exactly.
Everyone loves Jakey. Now, next one. Okay, so this is one that come up in various forms quite a lot, I think, from Jared, who says, to some, a player's contract is not worth a thing because players transfer quite regularly. Simply, is a contract meaningless, and can it be broken when a player feels like it?
It can only be broken when a player feels like it because the club doesn't enforce it. If the club turned around and said, no, we're going to make you sit on the bench or sit in Reggie's or do whatever, but you're going to stay the entire term, and that's up to us, we're going to keep paying you, we're going to take the cap hit, then the contract would be worth what it's printed on. However, clubs see it commercially and they go, actually, I don't want this player around, given that they're going to be cancerous to the club environment, and we have to pay them, which means that we can't allocate those funds elsewhere on the salary cap. So, yes, they're perceived as not being worth what they're printed on because they're not enforced. And a lot of the time when one party wants to break it, the other party will agree to do it. So there's a mutual termination and both parties move on. So, yeah, it was a roundabout way of saying that technically at the moment they're not, but some club could make them worth what they're printed on. They just haven't.
If you look at
all the conditions to do it are quite negative.
Yeah.
Well, Pascoe said that about Papali'i, and he said, "Yeah, I'll sit him on the bench for years." And then Papali'i all of a sudden was down with the farm and wants to sing Kumbaya.
My thing is though, I'm still convinced that if the NRL wanted that to stop, they have the mechanisms to do it. As in, all it would take is that for a club could submit for a salary cap exception, they would still need to pay the player. They would need to pay them their full due wage, but they would just apply for a salary cap exception and say, this player has asked for a release from the club, so we're not going to play him in our NRL squad, but he'll play reserve grade for the remainder of his contract. And if the NRL said, yes, we will give you their salary cap exemption, there goes all the incentives for clubs to buckle to players.
100%.
Yep.
It's the greatest thing you've ever said.
And could you imagine the RLPA jumping up and down about player wellbeing and player welfare and X, Y, Z misses? Yeah.
But again, it's your player's request.
Yeah, that is true. But then
and they're getting the full contract and they're getting all the money as well.
They're getting all the money.
All they're not getting is their
nothing's actually
first
changing.
grade.
Nothing's actually changing in the contract. They're saying because of whatever factor it may be, we're not playing them in our first grade squad, and they're seeking an exemption from the NRL on the salary cap. Nothing else. Nothing's changing in the agreement between them. But the reason I reckon the NRL won't do that is, if a Cameron Munster, like if one of the premier players chucks a tanty, they don't want somebody who is, potentially revenue generating in jersey sales or whatever it may be to be put in Reggie's for 2 years.
No, that's it.
And therein lies the trouble. It's the product. And, sport needs money to work. That's the unfortunate reality.
Yeah, definitely. And if you look at a different
we'd
sport,
forget about him. We'd forget him about him. We'd roll over and go to sleep and wake up the next day and into a world without, your example, Cameron Munster, and we would forget all about him, just like we did with fucking Israel Folau and
100%
and everyone else.
But the perception is, we need to protect our superstars. It's exactly the same mentality that they brought in the whole, well, hang on, the charges in the final series will be handled differently than charges in the regular season.
That's right. And if you look at, say, any sport, like in the NBA, Giannis, they'd make special rules to make sure Giannis could get what he wanted. If you look at the NFL, a few years ago, same with Tom Brady, things like that, they'll always have a way of making sure that the product's going to be what it is, so it keeps, as you said, generating revenue. So even though there could be the things that the NRL would do to be club-friendly, given that the NRL is propping up some of the clubs and things like that for a while there, I just don't think that they would do something that would
that's it.
Ruin the quality of the product.
Yep.
And that example that you made, Jay, would never happen, never be as likely to happen as it is today, because that's exactly the sort of shit that V'landys does.
Yeah.
Just on a whim.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, they would have just said, fuck him. But V'landys would be like, oh no, for the fans, this cannot stand, this one player situation. Let's change the entire fucking rules.
That's it.
Because, for the fans. Right, okay, so let's go on to another one. Steve's question about the mutual option, that's pretty much exactly what you were just talking about then. I mean, he says with the mutual option on contracts, do these work well or attract problems?
Well, they'll attract problems in the sense that it's hard to get two parties to agree that it's a fair contract, because if you look at every contract, eventually it'll either look team-friendly or it'll look player-friendly. So it's pretty tough to find a scenario where the player and the club go, you know what, we're both happy with this. Because you're either signed for unders or overs, and it'd be quite strange for you to be saying, unless you're at you take an unders to play for the Panthers and you want to stick around or something like that and win some premierships, it'd be weird to say, actually, this is a really fair deal and both parties want to continue.
Yeah. All right. Stuart said, "Would you advise?" And this is similar. Yeah, this goes towards your example earlier. But would you advise an up and coming player against signing for the Tigers? I think
Very topical.
You didn't necessarily answer this question because the example you had there were lots of things to weigh up on both sides of the equation, and and it makes a lot of sense. Either way he goes, I mean, there are attractions depending on who he thinks he can get over the top of in terms of playing fullback for the first grade side. But
that's right. It all depends on the position. It depends on the depth chart. It depends on who you are versus who's in front of you. It also depends on how young you are and things like that, because the Tigers do have a great system of bringing up junior talent. So if you're a young up-and-comer, I would definitely encourage signing at a club like that, because they're competitive every year in all of the junior grades leading up to the NRL. I don't know if that was the only option too. If that's your only NRL option, then you should strongly consider if you never had an NRL contract, because at the end of the day, you might get injured, or your form might be only temporary, and then after a long off season, you never what you were, and you never get another NRL opportunity. So it all depends. It all really depends. Look, I think could you get paid slide overs at the Tigers? Probably. That'd be good too. Compared to other clubs. So yeah, that's where I sit on that.
Yep. Okay. John Ard says, who decides on when NRL scouts come to view juniors for a potential scholarship, and does club footy take a back seat from school footy?
Well, school footy is where all the scouts go, because a lot of those players aren't signed to NRL systems, or they are signed and they're coming out of a deal, things like that. So, yes, a lot of player managers, scouts, team coaches, things like that, they do go to the school footy, and they do approach kids and their families and kind of offer them from there. So, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Queensland schoolboys games, but the big crowds there, and yes, there's families and teachers and things like that, but a lot of them are scouts, and a lot of them, particularly with Queensland, a lot of them are unsigned and do get picked up, whereas a lot of the New South Wales ones, they're already signed per se. You'll get your Patrician Brothers schools, and it's basically the Panthers juniors crossed with a few Bulldogs and Eels juniors already, and they're already all scouted and in systems. Whereas given Queensland don't quite do, you don't get signed to an NRL club per se. You get signed to a Queensland Cup and its affiliate, even though they are a direct affiliate of an NRL club. Potentially you might be picked up by the Norths Devils or Ipswich Jets, as opposed to when you're down in Sydney and you got the Panthers coming for you. You know what I mean? It's similar. You're in a junior rep program, but it's not NRL branded a lot of the time.
Yep. With your scale, I mean, I know from your Insta and stuff. I mean, you're actually physically at games a lot. I mean, is that how 100% of your scouting is done, or do you use anybody, or does anyone do any of the legwork for you, or it's just strictly everything you do yourself?
I get a lot of my players referring their friends, and I get a lot of players' dads referring talents they've seen, and a lot of things like that. So, I wasn't calling out Glenn directly there, but
I was going to say that sounds a lot like Glenny.
I was going to say, once you've set up your infrastructure, I need some sort of like product code or something against those clients as a Blakely.
Yeah, but look. I mean, like people, you guys, you two particularly, you love to shit on Glenny, but let's just step back for a minute. There has been times when he's told me about a kid running around in touch or in junior in Toowoomba that's going to be the next halfback for the Broncos. And I mean, that kid's in the fucking system, Glenny.
Correct.
He's in the system, so like you're not wrong, mate. He's fucking in the system.
I know.
He knows. He knows.
So I'm just maybe sometimes, I mean, because Glenny had that kid scouted fucking years ago. He was like fucking 11. and so like if you need like a long range, you want to pick out some.
And you sent me the screenshot of that player signing his Broncos deal. So Glenny, the Oracle, he knew.
Yeah, he is. He really is.
And just saying, the son of my mate that I was telling you about, I'll fill you in on some further details off air, because you've got some inside running there, my friend, and that is probably going to work out okay for you, I reckon.
Sounds good. Is that
So
the one?
take all your shit talk.
Is that the one where I kept thinking it was a man, but it was a woman, or the other way around?
No, you thought it was a woman.
Oh, but it was a man.
Yeah, but it was a man.
Yeah, it was a fucking boy named Sue scenario. So,
So tell me, when you're at these games, because you know, like in all the sports movies and stuff you see, like the high school or the college kids, they're like, oh, you know, there's a scout in the crowd tonight. This. Or there's a talent rep in the crowd.
It's that cunt in the terrible shirt there in row 6.
Like, do you get to like pace the sidelines and you've got the clipboard and you're writing shit down and stuff like that, or do you have to sit in the seats with everyone else?
yeah, no, you take off the masturbation trench coat, and not really. I usually actually get on board with the parents, and like I'll kind of just talk to them, and I'll point out. They'll point out who their kid is, and I'll be like, "Oh, do you know who the parents of that other kid are?" And then, in a nice way, like, no, it's not the first thing I say, but then, you know, eventually I'll figure out who I need to talk to, who I want to talk to. I'll talk to the coach, and the coach will kind of introduce me as to the player, or at least to the parents as well, and do it from there. But like, I'm not one to just approach kids, you know what I mean? I want to talk to the parents. I want to talk to someone who's responsible for said kids. But a lot of the time I also know who I'm going to watch. Like, I've done my research. I'm like, this player is going to be number 7 next week for the Canberra Raiders under 17 side, and I'm going there to watch him specifically. So there's not a lot of it. I'm not just rocking up and being like, oh, I hope I see some talent. Like, a lot of it I've done the work in. I've talked to other people, and I've said, yeah, this is who I'm after.
Yep, beautiful.
So what about you going to watch that certain kid, and the kid has a, you know, man of the match, you know, lays on 3 tries, all his line breaks, the rest of it. What are your criteria? What are you looking for? Are you looking just at his talent, or do you have to sit down and actually spend some time with him and realise they're not a fuckwit?
Yeah, I've got a big no fuckwits rule, and it's ruled out of signing a few people who were talented in the time, and it's also led to me dropping a few people that I'd signed in the first while.
Do you actually say that? Sorry, you're in breach of my no fuckheads rule. I'm going to have to let you go.
I let them down easy when I'm dumping them, but like if I haven't signed them already, then they might cop a bit more harsh criticism. But you know, they have to have the hard work as well as the talent, and they have to have a bit more drive. Then I don't know, I just rock up and magic happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Then also I like guys that have things going on outside of football as well, because I think the ones that, you know, they're telling me they're going to repeat school to try and get another crack, or, you know, they don't want to go work or anything, it's football or nothing. They're the ones that are a bit of a worry because there's so much pressure on them. Whereas the ones that have other ambitions and things like that, they're ones I attract as well, because they understand how the world works as well, and that they might not get their crack at their dream. So, you know, and being on the tools, I don't know how early trading starts. Glenn, what time are you up? 10 a.m? Right? What's your workday? 10 to 3? Whatever, however long they're on the tools. You know, that helps them.
I'll tell you what, whenever I ring his fucking mobile phone, someone else in the office answers it, so I don't know if he's even there.
You didn't. You rang the landline, you fucking moron.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No.
Yes, you did.
No.
The landline rang, and it was answered by my colleague, business partner, and your fucking biggest fan. Which is quite frustrating, if I'm honest. But we're going off track.
Yeah, all I meant was when they're busting their ass on the tools, or, you know, they're starting and things like that, it makes them really want that dream more, as opposed to someone that's just doing extras at the Oval all day waiting for training, things like that.
Yep. Here's a good one from Trotters. Said, what's your take on an agent like Braith also having a prominent role in the media? Do you feel like it's a massive conflict of interest?
Oh yeah, it's a massive conflict of interest, because at the end of the day, those guys on Fox and Channel 9, they create a lot of what the journalists take and the written media, and they create all the headlines, so they can really spin a narrative to suit themselves, which can be really self-fulfilling. Now, someone like Braith, he doesn't manage a lot of players, but, you know, he's got a handful of really talented players, a lot of them halfbacks, you know, with your Lachlan Ilias and your Cam Munsters and things like that.
Yep.
So having him just talk about how fantastic they are and how they're going to have 10-year careers and whatnot, it does help him, and it's very it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy that he'll only benefit from. So it is a massive conflict of interest, particularly because player managers can't have any association with any clubs, and that goes from all the way from park football to the NRL. So the fact that you could be signed with in the media and spinning the narrative doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but it is technically not outside the rules.
Yeah. Am I remembering correctly? Like, was Braith in your intake?
Yeah, I believe it. Braith was in my intake. Gus Gould was meant to be, but then didn't show up to orientation and didn't go ahead with it.
Yep.
I had a couple of ex-players in there, like your Matt Rogers and things like that as well. So like mine was an interesting orientation day. It wasn't bad.
Yep.
Because of COVID, it was all virtual.
Like you've got the your angle that you go with, like I'm a lawyer as well, and like Matt Rogers is like I'm a black diamond in Amway. I'll fucking I'll sort you up at I'll sort you up at the as a fucking I can't know what their terms are, but I'll set you up at the bottom of my trapezoid.
I tell you, I can do two things really well for you: washing powder and autism. Signed with Rogers.
Outrageous.
Well,
Oh.
Yes. Now, I got one. Next one here is from Ned, and it kind of crosses over some of the areas that we've spoken about with regards to the player contracts being meaningless and so on. But a part of his question though that is still probably relevant is, how do you maximise the potential that a player honours their contract? Do you do anything? I guess is probably the first question.
At the end of the day, if you're seen as someone who's not going to fulfill contracts and he's not going to, stick out all his obligations, then I guess you're less attractive to other suitors moving forward who might only want to sign you for a short-term deal. If you say things like, "Oh, I'm homesick in Queensland, but I'm going to go sign, for New Zealand or somewhere that's also not your home," and I guess it all depends on what narrative you spin as to why you want to get out of a contract. But at the end of the day, I would never advise someone to sign for a certain period of time if they didn't feel like they were going to fulfill that time at the club. Or, I mean, obviously circumstances change. You might get dropped and out of favour, and that's why you'd want to change. But if the club's still playing you at the NRL level, and I think that you should fulfil all of it, which is kind of my stance. But speaking of Nettie's actually coming down to stay at my house on Saturday. So
really,
yeah, he's gonna be sleeping out the back with my golden retriever Jasper. But I've let him into. I've let him into the fucking pig pen over here, and we'll see how he goes. What I like about that is though, is like, this is someone who, I've listened to his podcast in which Glenye came on, which was fantastic, hearing the origins of Glenye and how disturbing and dark that was. But hearing just like someone as part of a culture which is TWiL Nation, and I'm having in my house, we'll probably get on like a house on fire because we're good internet's friends. It's also something that was an unintended consequence, or not consequence, unintended thing that I didn't actually think about with Strive, because a lot of my Strive guys, they sort of know each other or they've heard of each other, and they all add each other and they all start becoming friends, and then all of a sudden we have a community, to the point where two people who signed for the Storms juniors, one 21s, one 19s, without me knowing, they've messaged each other and they now have got a house together through Strive, and through their relationship through Strive, and they're going to be living together and trying to make it down there together from Queensland. So there's lots of things like that which I never intended. I'm sure you guys never intended to build such a community. Maybe you did, and you sickos, but that's something I've thought about. It's been
Nate's
beautiful.
always been the Pied Piper of fuckheads, so we always knew that he was going to develop a following. That's just his thing. That's what he does. It's kind of branched out, and there's some actual normal people that have got on board too, which is great.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Ned, but it's That's great. So is that, what do you call it? The Strive Hive? Strive Nation? Just like
I haven't thought of
completely
a
leech
community name because, as I said, I didn't expect it to ever happen like this, which is something, it makes sense that it happened. It's just something that on day one I didn't expect, that I'd sign so many talented players and they'd all become friends. And sometimes they meet up when they're on the piss and they send me photos together when I'm like, oh, I'm glad that's a disappearing image because I don't want to fucking look at that. I don't want to look at that moving forward. Things like that. I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. I've created a little community.
We're staying alive with Strive.
What is it? Any bags of anti-inflammatory medication?
Why do you have laundry powder in a baggie in your pocket?
How do you all have hay fever at the same time?
Glad you're taking responsibility for keeping your kit clean.
Right. On our Discord, the Loaded Juggler said, so when the players fuck up and do some embarrassing ass shit, what is the role of the agent in damage control, crisis, and reputation rebuilding? What does or should the agent do first? And what are some good examples of what an agent has done in the past?
Well, it's all a PR exercise, and you can either choose to get ahead of the story and come up with a credible explanation as to why you're in a compromising position of sorts, or a photo or a video, or you've been arrested, there's a story. You can either choose to get ahead of it, you can either choose to show remorse, or you can either choose to ignore it or go the legal route. Now, someone like myself, who is a practicing lawyer, I could give off-the-cuff legal advice and things like that to try and help them come up with an explanation, or otherwise it's coming up with a believable story that both makes sense and is hopefully true.
I was going to say, where's the truth come into this?
Mate, the truth's all relative.
Hypothetical.
Is this how you ended up with a forehead like that? Is you constantly switching between agent and lawyer hats? You just fucking create so much friction.
I cannot believe that someone that looks like you hits me up about my fucking looks. Fucking Stanley Tucci with AIDS over there.
So like, hypothetical speaking, like you're, I don't know, like let's say you're managing Dylan Napper and his video WhatsApp's come out or whatever, and he's he's finger blasting his own ass and shadow boxing and stuff. Like, what do you do in that case?
I'd forgotten about that. Fuck.
I was about to say the mental health card can't just be come out because that doesn't make any sense, especially with boxing form like that. What I guess, that's one I guess you'd have to just show remorse for, and come out and explain, I know, substance issues potentially. Otherwise, that's probably, now I think about it and I've had a bit of time, I think that's one you just wouldn't answer, and you'd say, let's wait for the next incident to come and this will all blow over. Let's grab a pint.
Is there a world in which you would go and approach, say, a prostate cancer charity and ask for sponsorship?
If you were an opportunistic fellow, then I suppose. Look, my brain doesn't work that way, but I'm glad yours does, son.
Well, it's the perfect ad campaign for them, to get it done by a professional.
You're a marketing genius.
This is what happens as the Strive Hive comes together. It's stronger than the sum of its parts.
When there's a working bee in the Strive Hive, this is the honey that comes out. It's so good.
I mean, you could say this is a teaser for like the OnlyFans content that's about to be released, and then just never release it and hope no one follows up.
You'd have a long list of sickos emailing you going, hey, where's his OnlyFans content? We've signed up and everything.
Mainly Ned.
Where are we? Here's one from Timmy. He said, if you get paid on the percentage of a contract and the player leaves or the contract is terminated early, does your percentage stay the same? What clauses do you put in place to ensure you get paid your dues?
You get paid a percentage of any valid and binding NRL contract. If that NRL contract is torn up or terminated for whatever reason, you get 0% of... Oh, so you get 100% of 0 or 0% of 100. So whichever way you look at it, you're not getting any more money. A lot of the time, the contract's terminated, as we discussed earlier, mutually, and you've got another gig. But if it's for something like behaviour, or some other reason where you don't have a contract to go to, then the manager's also got $0, and they're desperately calling every club in the entire world trying to find you a new contract.
Yeah. This one comes from Dan. Said, would an unscrupulous agent convince a club to pull a storm to get/keep a player, i.e. have an official figure registered to the NRL but pay overs illegally?
I think that would be more the club that would be trying to push the illegal payment and the agent accepting a cash payment, as opposed to the agent going, okay, you've reached your hard cap. What can you do outside of that in terms of dodgy cash payments? So I think it would be more the club that would approach the manager, but I don't know. It might already happen. There might already be managers doing such things. So I couldn't tell you. I'm not one of those unscrupulous agents.
Yep. And here's one that came in after the last time we did the episode as well. From Lazzy, he said, with TPAs, are there limitations to the types of sponsors, despite them being legal? For example, gambling entities or other adult companies.
Yeah, so it's TPAs if they're directly affiliated with the NRL or with the particular club in question, or I think even any other club, then you couldn't have that as a TPA. So, for instance, take the Rabbitohs. They've got the MG car dealership as their main sponsors. That means they couldn't just all of a sudden turn around and give a third-party agreement to a Rabbitohs player. It has to be completely independent, such as, say if Glenye's MI Diggers Company wanted to get on board with one of the Tigers players. I don't think he has any affiliation with the league, so he could do that. But firstly, it has to be signed off with the...
Does long-suffering member count as affiliation?
Well, if he's a financial member, then yes. But yeah, so you have to get it... With TPAs, the approval process is you have to get it approved by the club, you have to get it approved by the NRL, and then it's kind of determined whether it will account to the salary cap or whether it's completely separate and it's more of an endorsement type deal.
Right.
Do you think the days of the thoroughbreds are gone just because of now everyone relies so heavily on mobile phones? Or is it encrypted messaging apps and disappearing messages and stuff like that means that it still goes on in places?
Or legit, like just face-to-face, literal brown paper bag work.
Nothing would stop all the brown paper bag work, but I think you're right with the boom of technology and everything that is, cybersecurity or lack thereof in terms of some of the data breaches. I think there would be less of it. It depends who's running the encrypted app. It's like how the police sold the encrypted app to all the bikies, and then the bikies all got done on said app with thousands of messages. It all depends on how much you trust such encrypted stuff. But I'm sure a lot of it still happens, and in the latest budget they've put a lot of money into trying to get all the tax avoiders, like one particular podcast host, which we won't name, we'll let other people guess, that has a booming company in the MI has overseas offshore dealings.
Yeah, okay.
Oh man, that face is fucking amazing.
Guys, you guys are breaking up. I'm just going to have to jump off the call real quick.
I got a call coming from Malaysia, do you?
No, actually, Canberra.
Yes, just my other line.
That's
right.
Very interesting.
Look at the change that's come over Glenny in the last 25 seconds.
Look, there's certain secrets that shouldn't be revealed, and I don't know how they work.
He's going to have to dig up a bunker around his perimeter soon.
It's the off season now, Glenny.
This is what happens when Jay rings my office thinking he's ringing my mobile. Shit goes pear-shaped really quickly.
Now, do you boys have any other questions that you would like to ask? I can't remember what you asked on the first edition of this one.
I have one, and it may seem obvious, but when you're initiating a negotiation or or a player's position in the market for a new contract, whether it's with his existing club or other clubs. And he has an overinflated view of his contract potential. Who sets the tone as far as what you go to the clubs with? Like, if he says, I'm worth $750, and you're going, cunt, you're lucky to get 200, right? Do you look like a complete fuckhead and go in there, ask him for $750 and cop the wrath of the people you're trying to negotiate with? Or do you try and let those guys down easy?
Well, I think...
And don't tell me that players have a solid understanding of their position in the universe, let alone their contract values in the NRL.
No, you're right. Obviously, every one of their players' perceptions is that they are worth probably a lot more than they are, because that you have to have that killer mentality to be a professional athlete. So I understand all of that. At the end of the day, you could give advice and say, look, I think we're going to get laughed out of the room, or I think they're just going to turn around and say no immediately. You can give you advice as to how much you think they should be going for. But at the end of the day, I act on their instructions. And now there's 17 teams. If we want to use one as a crash test dummy and go with a stupid figure to them, if that's the way they're going to have to learn, then that's the way that they'd have to learn. Because at least you're not going to a room full of them and saying this is how much we want, and they're all leaving together. You know, you can. There's a process of elimination where you could have one club in which you saw that would be the most likely to pay overs, and you could go to them first straight up. At the end of the day, they could turn around and be like, we think he's worth X amount. So that could actually really help when you discuss going to your next clubs. But in saying all of that, I'm in the process currently now of doing my first contract extension with Saliva Havili. Obviously, I've met with the Rabbitohs officials and we're trying to negotiate a longer-term deal. The money's coming closer together. But he's one of those players that at 1 November, he is free to discuss 2024, and obviously the club's aware of that. But yeah, obviously, still contracted for 2023, so he's not going anywhere, Rabbitohs fans, and he wants to stay at the club. But yeah, we're just in the process of negotiating that, and then we can get really the yardstick for what he's worth in the open market if we don't come to a deal soon.
When you do a contract with the Rabbitohs, is one of the requirements that the player has to follow 30-odd foot of grunt on Spotify?
No, it's MySpace.
Do they have to be able to recite Gladiator word for word?
I wish I was dealing with
which self-respecting NRL player couldn't, though? I mean, come on.
Do they have to keep a straight face when Rusty tells them that he's never made a sex tape with a Burgess mother?
Even though they've seen it already.
Wow.
Now, can I
did you have any questions?
Mate, I do. I remember this one from last week and just how much it fucking floored me. But I asked you how much you had to do with the RLPA, which gave me some new information I didn't know. So let's kick it off, please. Tell us about your involvement with the RLPA and payer payments and the corresponding association.
Yeah, so we got this strange email from the Rugby League Player Agents Association, so that's confusing. It's RLPAA versus what you're talking about is the Players Association, which is RLPA. Anyway, the player agents came to us and said, well, the players during the time of COVID agreed to take less money because when the NRL was back in the green, the payments would be deferred and you'd get it later. Now, the RLPA has come out with the position that the money in which they're going to get paid later, which is part of NRL contracts, no cut of that should go to the player manager because of player well-being. And it's like, wait, and the Player Agent Association is saying, wait, hold up. This is money that we ordinarily would have been entitled to, but the RLPA is saying that because it was deferred and paid later, that it should go all to the player and not to the player manager who negotiated said contract.
Fuck. So, again, just to say this, so they've gone, the NRL's gone back and gone, so because of COVID, we essentially can't fulfill our contractual obligations to our sponsors. So the revenue we're going to receive during COVID is lessened. right? Can't provide the games. Channel 9's not going to pay for advertising during games that aren't there. That means we can't pay money that we normally would have to the players. So you're going to need to take a haircut on that. Understandably, the player goes, well, hey, manager, agent, I'm not making 200K. I'm making whatever the fuck it is, 150, 120, whatever the fucking number is. So your percentage is now based on this revised figure. You didn't negotiate that figure, by the way. The contract that you negotiated is still enforced. You know, that's still a current contract. I've accepted this, and so you take a haircut. And you would assume that every fucking manager was absolutely fine with that because they understood the gravity of the situation and it was a global pandemic. Fucking, yada, yada, yada. Part of the taking the haircut was, don't worry, it's not permanent. We will make you whole in the future for this change to your contract. So we will reverse the change to the contract. And now they're saying that you don't get your clip of that. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the RLPA. What a fucking international cunt circus.
Yeah, and what's made things also very difficult about trying to negotiate contracts moving forward is that the RLPA are leaking certain amounts in which the salary cap could be going up to, and I think there's about a $700,000 swing on both sides of, you know, like 10.8 million to 11.5 million, in which new numbers keep getting reported. So clubs don't know what the fuck to do in terms of trying to push for new contracts at this stage before anything gets announced, because there's been all these leaks from people in the RLPA being like, no, it's 11.5. Actually, it's 11, or is it 11.2, or is it 10.8? And it's like, well, fuck, I don't know. You tell us.
Yeah, it's absolutely fucking ridiculous.
But just with regards to the players taking that haircut during COVID, they have now been made whole. That's all gone. That's actually happened now.
Yeah, that's right.
And your percentage, as per your agent's agreements, was not made whole.
Well, at the moment, yeah, it remains untouched. Untouched for me, that is. And look, at the end of the day, it's for me.
So how does that improve their welfare? Is that just, you know, more money, less problems?
Well, they're getting X% more money, right?
Yeah.
More money, more problems, because then you got you know, the player agent's been like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
What do you guys like your Braiths and like your Moses and your Tartax, and what are they saying about that? Because I mean, obviously, they have far more first graders on their books and lucrative contract having first graders at that, where their percentage equals significantly larger amounts of money.
The consensus is, I'm not sure of each individual manager, although the Rugby League Players Association is made up of a lot of the bigger ones, so a lot of the more tenured ones anyway, and they're all saying that they should dip in some money to try and essentially fight this legally, at least in the interim, to try and, you know, not scare them, but at least show that they mean business, and then if they have to continue it, they have to continue it. Essentially.
Well, this is my second association red flag. Surely the point of that association is to accrue money for legal fees for these things. Like, it gets paid dues every year, you would assume, by everyone that's a member. What are you doing? Yeah. Are you running an actual not-for-profit? Your only goal at the end of the year is for a big old fucking zero? Where have all the fucking dues gone from how long has it been established?
The player agents?
10 years? The Player Agents Association.
I think it's been
AA.
Yeah, it's 12 to 15 years, I believe. It's been. Cool. It used to just be the Wild West, and now there's been accredited and an actual scheme for about 12 years, I think.
So how many years have they fought major court cases? None?
0.
So why are we not fucking accruing for the potential of that?
Oh, that rainy day money. Put it all in crypto, brother.
Everything else in regards to the NRL has a war chest. And they've got nothing.
That is a fucking good point. I hadn't thought of that.
They're literally out there fucking selling the Freddo Frogs for $1.
Yeah,
trying to fund their legal battle.
That's right. They're like the 20 new agents that get come through every time. They're like, hey guys, want to chuck in some funds for some litigation to show you a real player manager.
Yeah. All right, boys. Any other questions from the man? Or can we let him get on with his life for another year?
We certainly can.
No, I've always enjoyed the banter with the great man. So thank you very much for coming on again, mate.
You have been absolutely
Some would say for
delightful
the
this
second
week.
week in a row.
You've been delightful this week, Glenny. You're right, Nate. He's turned a corner, or you know.
He was really fucking surly last week, and so it's been a blessing.
This week this week has actually been harder, but I think I'm just a little bit numb today.
Just broken, yeah.
Well, the character, it's obviously the significant building of character that took place over this last hard 7 days for you, Glenny. It's really showing, and I'm really proud of the way you're conducting yourself this week.
Oh, thanks, mate.
When
I'll make a cut of myself next week just to balance it out.
When you compare and contrast it with the surly little bitch that was just slamming Michael non-stop from fucking start to finish.
Like I get most of our individual agendas, and I must say that they're generally always fucking warranted.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
But I don't get this one. I don't get it.
The one I don't get is the forehead one, man. It's like we're all looking at each other's foreheads right now, and you'd be looking at the bottom right screen of Glenny to be like, he's the favourite in the sweepstakes. Like, it isn't fucking me. I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, I've said, Glenny's forehead starts at like. It starts at his eyebrows like everyone's, but then it finishes at the bottom of his neck.
Yeah.
Some would say it finishes at the top of my ass. I don't know.
It's like a 270-degree forehead.
Oh, that's funny.
Anyway, thank you, sir. As always, it's tremendous having you on for this. What's now become like a yearly tradition, and it's great watching everything grow and just you can just chart the course from the day that the day you're the drunken little monkey at fucking at El Loco.
I fucking love it. I love it. The pain point was you had your tickets to the grand final stolen, so you've set yourself on a path where you won't actually need tickets to go to the grand final. You'll just get let in with any players you've got that are playing in the game.
With my pass, yeah, exactly.
That's like tracing Donald Trump back to Obama making fun of him at that fucking dinner 8 years ago, and all of a sudden he set himself on a pass.
I just remember hopelessly looking up at Nate at El Loco and being like, "Dude, I was RSA'd. It's 11 a.m." And Nate's like, you got to go, bro. Because it wasn't only you're cut off. They were like, you have to leave the premises. I was like, holy shit, I haven't actually done anything. But like I'd started.
Yeah, and I was trying, I tried the, how about he has waters route, but like you got pretty bad pretty fast. Because I got RSA'd that same day about 2:00.
But wasn't that around? I swear that was around the time that Sydney went absolutely stupid with RSA.
We deserved it.
No, but I remember there was...
In hindsight, I could say that we probably deserved
it. I was down in Sydney for something, and there was like, for 5 minutes every hour or for 10 minutes every 2 hours, all of the bar staff literally had to step away from the serving counter and stick their arms up in the air. It was this weird fucking thing where they like couldn't serve anyone for a certain amount of time out of every hour.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Oh, Jesus.
It fucking spun me out.
Fast forward to a month ago.
I don't remember that, but I mean, like, what would I know? I was RSA'd back then.
Fast forward to a month ago, and, certain people were fucking laying on the floor with their head in a trough.
It was so awkward after, like, having all my shit stolen, and then I flagged down a cab and I caught a cab back to my mate's house because they were all going to the grand final. Anyway, I get in the cab and I get to the destination. I'm like, fuck, bro, I can't pay you. Like, I don't have anything. Like, it just dawned on me. I was like, holy shit, I don't have any of my stuff. And the guy was like, you're fucking kidding. And I, like, turned out all my pockets. And he was like, get out of my cab, you sad fuck. And I was like, all right. And then I went to go like, knock on my mate's door. And he lived off Parramatta Road in, like, an apartment thing. And then no one's answering. So I went around the back to, like, in the alleyway. And I went on knocking on their back door. Nothing. Anyway, I ended up having another nap, like, basically at his back door. And I wake up to this voice going, he's dead. And I was like, who's dead? And there's my other mate and his girlfriend looking over me. And I was like, oh, I'm dead. No, I'm not dead. I'm good.
And this is why you should
day.
sign with Strive.
I've been in the gutter.
Drink and drive with Strive.
But yeah, no, a lot of harsh lessons to learn that time.
This is a man that's been there before.
Let me be your free cab ride to the NRL.
Make people question if you're alive with Strive.
Yeah, then I had my resurrection. I went on the straight and narrow, boys, so it was all good.
Well done. Love it.
Shout out to the Strive Hive, and I forgot the last episode I was giving a shout out to Cruzy's kid, Tyler, who we first met like he was a kid. Like Cruzy's bringing him to meetups and shit, like 2015 grand final.
Buying him $30 milkshakes at fucking Broncos
Buying $30
games.
milkshakes. Yeah, exactly. But he played on Saturday or Sunday. I think it was Saturday. I ended up watching the game. They were live streaming it. Under 16 for the Filipino side against Malta. They got fucking pumped. I can't remember what the final score was. They hung in there for a while, but it was shitty conditions, pissing down rain and everything. And these Filipino kids didn't have the benefit of the Maltese kids where they'd kind of played together and knew each other. And the Filipino kids just met each other at the captain's run the night before, where they got their jerseys. Yeah. And look, being realistic, they probably played a little bit like they'd just met each other as well. I mean, in terms of combinations and stuff. But I mean, such a great fucking thing though to play for like a team of your heritage and everything in under 16s. And
that is wonderful though, because the Philippines should be used to coming second in stuff like Manny Pacquiao, fucking just loser. Absolute fucking loser.
I mean, I don't know if you could say he's an absolute loser. The man had a very long, successful, lucrative
you want to talk about weird agendas?
He won politically, man.
Why? Have you been to the Philippines? My agenda makes perfect sense. Please.
Jollibee's the bomb, yo.
What's for breakfast? Oh, a fucking rancid, decaying bird egg. Thank you.
Oh, fucking baby duck.
Yeah.
Have my eggs chirpy side up, thanks.
Yeah.
I saw the photos from Cruzy's Facebook. His son's a big boy now. Big boy.
Yeah.
If I had to choose a Tekken fighter out of your kids, man, I'd be picking him for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was bun bashings.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, he's a big boy.
That's
And
fucking great.
I'm glad that obviously we all love rugby league, and Cruzy's a big fan. He gets involved with his local junior club there, and it's great that his son is also just as passionate and following that passion. So yeah, I really commend him.
Very nice.
Yep, exactly. All right, fellas, let's wrap this one up. Thanks again, Michael.
How good. Two success stories. Cruzy Jr. and Strive. Fucking love it.
How good. And on that note, fellas, we'll
And
wrap
Jay's
up.
recording file, hopefully. There's a third one.
I tell you, like Jay did drop out momentarily on the video on my end, and that's what happened last time. And I was just like, oh fuck, it's not. Yeah,
He's still a black square on my Skype. And,
he's still a black square.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. It's a fucking upgrade.
He dropped out. He dropped out last time too. I mean, except the square disappeared entirely, so he was off the call.
I was like,
But this time
wow,
with
that's
that black
interesting.
square-
How do you get Skype to show your soul instead of your face?
You gotta get one of those new flash fucking cameras, mate. they're on the new MacBooks.
I'm using my Christ book.
Good times.
All right, fellas. That's it for episode 498, etc., etc. Join the Patreon. Episodes are going to keep going all through the off season there for the members, and patreon.com/TWiL.
Twillies are coming. We've got the category sorted. We've got the nominations ready.
Nice. Hey, did you get that form sorted out?
I got the form. It's not sorted out yet, but I have it here, so it's on my to-do list.
Can you edit it though? You got the ability.
I have received the email.
I haven't voted on
okay.
anything.
Cool.
Am I behind, or has nothing been there to vote?
It was we put it in the Discord for patrons to help narrowing down the selection. So this isn't the actual awards that are done.
Yeah, the actual voting will commence over the next day or so.
The voting will commence.
And you have at least a week to probably vote them, and then we'll run the Twilly episode.
Mate, I'll tell you what,
next week probably.
You need to start campaigning heavily for your fucking boys, because how good would it be for the first time ever to have a live Twilly recipient come through and might have to make an actual fucking trophy.
I'd love that.
New category, agent of the year.
Love it.
All right, boys. Good
All
show.
right.
And, we'll talk to you all next time.
Later.
See ya.
See ya.